So I want to talk about Polya's 4 steps. There's a question in the upcoming homework assignment that you're probably going to look at and be like, this problem, I don't know how to solve it. Where is there a formula for it or something? Well, not really. What you have to do, it's the last question that's going to be on homework number 7. What you have to do is just use Polya's 4 steps. It's a very good type of question that Polya's 4 steps can be used to help you figure out or solve. So if you remember the 4 steps, according to Polya, George Polya, now there's probably other people who have other ways to solve problems where they have 3 steps or 4 steps or 5 steps, but we talked about the 4 steps. And there's different ways that they write these steps in different textbooks. I'm going to just write some of the stuff that we talked about. So if you remember step 1 was read the problem. That's how it was actually written. But to read something means to understand it. It doesn't mean to read and not have any idea of what's going on in the problem. So that's why I put understand. You want to read it until you understand the problem, then think of a way to solve the problem, then do whatever steps you thought of to solve the problem, carry those out. If you realize that you have the right answer, then you're done. If you think or you know that you did something wrong or your method didn't work out, then go back and devise a new plan. So I just made up a problem the other day, actually, that to figure it out, using the 4 steps is a good idea. So I noticed that certain days of the year, it doesn't matter what year you're in either, really. It doesn't matter what year. Certain days of the year, when we write them in this format where we have month, day, and year, certain days of the year have an ascending order. What I mean by that, for instance, is the other day, Saturday, last Saturday was April 18th, 2020. So if you look, these numbers go up. You go to 4, then 18, and 20. There's an ascending order. Another example, I'm going to rate it bigger, might be 3, 4, 20, right? The numbers go up. So what I'm doing is I'm calling these dates that have an order that goes up, where the month is the smallest number, the day is the next biggest number, and then the year is the biggest number. I'll call these, I hope I spelled this right, ascending dates. So any date where the number goes up is an ascending date, and I'll abbreviate that AD. So this is an AD, 3, 4, 20. For a counterexample, this would not be. Also, just to clarify, this would not be. Because it doesn't go up. It stays 3. 3, 320 is not an ascending date. So, what I asked myself is, here's the question. So remember, we're trying to solve a problem. We need a problem. And problems are usually questions, right? Not always, but... I want to know how many dates or days, I'll write dates, how many dates in 2020 are ascending dates. So how many dates in 2020 are ascending dates? That's my question. So the first thing I have to do is read the question. And by read it, I mean understand it. Read it, obviously. And if you don't understand it, read it again. Hopefully I understand the question because I'm the one that made it up. But let's say somebody else made it up, and I'm going to read the question. How many dates in 2020 are ascending dates? Well, like I just made up this term. Well, let's say it was a real thing. I would have to know what that means. So if I read the question and didn't know what that meant, I would have to look that up. If I look it up and I see an explanation that means the month, when a date is written in the format of month, day, year, each number that follows the number is bigger than the one before it, then I would know what ascending date meant. So I would know how to figure it out. I understand the question now. How many dates in 2020 are ascending dates? So I read it. Now that I know what everything in the problem means, I understand the problem. Now I have to figure out a plan. Well, here's a plan. I could just try to write down a date that I know is an ascending date, okay? Now, since days go in order, obviously, you know, January comes before February, February comes before March, I might want to try to write down the dates in order. So I'm going to try to find the first date that's an ascending date. So this is my plan. I'm going to try to find the first ascending date of the year. And then I'm going to go from there. So my plan right now is just to write down the first date that's an ascending date. Well, since the month is 1, I can't write 1 here because that wouldn't be going up. But I can write 2. So January 2nd, 2020 is the first one. Well, now that I've written down 1, I'm going to write down another one. That's my plan. I'm going to keep doing this. So now my plan is I'm going to just write down all the ascending dates in January of 2020. Then I'm going to see if I can find maybe a pattern. Then if I can, I'm going to use the pattern. If I can't, I'll just write down every date. That's a legitimate plan. One way to solve this is to just write down all the ascending dates, then count how many there are, and that's the answer. You can't just say, oh, I don't know how to do it. Because if you said, oh, I don't know how to do it, I'd say, well, you can just write down all the dates. Then you would probably say something like, well, that takes a lot of time, which means that you do know how to do it and just don't want to do it. Okay, but I'm going to look for a pattern, though. Okay. I noticed that without having to write them all out, that this is going to keep going until I get to this date here. The next date won't work, right? 1/20/20 won't work. It won't be an ascending date. So these are all the ones, I didn't write them all out. I wrote ... But these are the only ones that will work in January. So there are 18 ADs in January. And there's people outside in the hall talking, and it's really annoying. So there are 18 ascending dates in January. I don't even have to write them all down. I could figure that out just by looking at it and seeing that pattern. Well, what about February? Well, the first ascending date in February would look like this. And the same as in January, it's going to go all the way until the 19th. Okay? There's 17 in February. 17 ADs in February. What about March? Well, the first ascending date in March would be that. And once again, it would stop right at the 19 because 3/20/20, by our definition, or my definition of ascending date, wouldn't be ascending, so there's 16 in March. How do I know there's 16? I didn't write them all out. Well, guess what? Here's how. They go up to the 19th, right? The first three aren't. March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd aren't. But the next 16 up until the 19th, including the 19th, are. Well, you're going to see hopefully you see a pattern here. They keep on going down by one. So in April, there's 15, 14, in May. I'm going to start writing over here. 13 in June, 12 in July, 11 in August, 10 in September, 9 in October, 8 in November, 7 in December. Now I'm going to check to make sure. Now you might be thinking, oh, well, this is easy for you. You knew this before. I didn't. I'm just doing the problem right now for the first time. You can see the pattern. It goes down by one every time. There's no reason why it wouldn't. But I'm going to check to make sure that December really has 7. So 12/12 won't work. So 12, 13, 20 is the first one. Then it goes to 12. You know what? Since there's only 7, I'm going to write them all out just to make sure. So that would be the next one. Next one. Next one. I want to make sure you can see it, so. And that's it. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is what we said. So all we have to do is add up all these numbers, and we'll know how many ascending dates there are. See, it hasn't really taken that long. You could honestly, or not honestly, you could dishonestly say, well, I don't know how to do that problem. You could read it and say, well, I don't know how to do that. And when it's really easy, all you have to do is write down the dates. You could write down all of them if you want. There's a finite amount, so, and not only is there a finite amount, it's not a large amount. Obviously 50,000, if there were 50,000 dates, that would still be a finite amount, but that would be hard to write down. There's not going to be 50,000 of these. First of all, there's only 366 days in 2020. If all of them were ascending dates, then there would only be 366 things to write down, but a lot less than 366. So you could write them all down. You can't just say I can't do it, right? But I didn't have to write them all down. I wrote down the first few, then I noticed that there would be 18 in January. Then I noticed there would be 17, then 16. So I saw a pattern, went all the way to the end, made sure I checked to see that there really were 7 in December. Now I'm going to add up all these numbers. Well, if you notice, I'm going to write them all out like this. I'm going to show you a trick, like if you didn't have a calculator. But obviously you could just add them up on a calculator. if you notice, the first and last number add up to 25. Well, if you keep going in, each pair that you pick is going to add up to 25. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 pairs of 25. So in 2020, there are 150 days that if you wrote them out, they would have an order where the month is a smaller number than the day, which is a smaller number than the year. Okay, so I used Polya's 4 steps. I really didn't know the answer to the problem before I did it. It didn't take that long. I know a lot of people are like, oh, when they read that problem, they'll be like, that's impossible for me to do. But it's not. Like, all you have to do is understand the problem, devise a plan. Your plan could have been just to write out every day. Now, that's not a good plan because it would take a long time, longer than what I did. But hopefully you're not doing it randomly and say, well, oh, I know June 10th, 2020 is one of those days, so I'm going to write that down. Why would you start in June? Start in January. Start at the first one. Then you can see, oh, well, they go all these from January 2nd to January 19th, so that's 18. Oh, in February it would be 17, and notice that pattern. And then at the end, add them all up. So the last problem on the homework is similar to this, but it's probably easier than this. And this wasn't that hard, so hopefully that helps.